Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Last time I posted was like, I don't know when this is going up, but as of right now, last time I posted was like 6 months ago or something, I have no idea. This video is about Cyberpunk 2077. I wanted to do more on the channel, and I wanted to do more voice stuff, because I feel like that's my best quality in video. I would have done a more scenic, uh, I would have done a more, like, camera, done some stuff with cinematography, but, I don't have a budget, and I don't have places to film safely, so until then, we have this, and if, I'm doing everything as I planned, you should be watching, film of my Cyberpunk game, because I think the game is very pretty to look at. And I think if I can figure out how to make console commands work and get it to rain, we'll get some nice rain in the background for us to listen to together. I'm filming in my closet because I don't have any other better place for echo. So this is what we work with. This is a video about Cyberpunk and my thoughts on it, because Cyberpunk is one of the few games where I have a lot of thoughts about it, which I don't typically have about most video games. I typically play games just to have something for my mind and body to do, as a little respite from thinking. But yeah, let's get into it. But this is gonna be like very spoilery. I'll tell you right before I give some story spoilers, but it'll be there will be spoilers incoming. So yeah. So what are my thoughts on Cyberpunk 2070? Well, I think Cyberpunk is a very good game. If you like open worlds and RPGs, you'll probably like Cyberpunk. And full disclosure, I was always going to like Cyberpunk. I don't think there's a world where I wasn't going to like it. So first question first, is Cyberpunk worth $60? This is always the first question for me. I think it would be worth $60 even if all you could do was drive around the city and take photos. It's a truly beautiful game to look at. And so aside from that, is Cyberpunk fun to play? So let's go and lead into a discussion about the gameplay in Cyberpunk. It is a game, let's talk about the gameplay. I would say that the gunplay in the game is very stiff, very wooden. It's not the funnest gunplay I ever played. I'm not a big fan of first person shooters in general, but the gunplay just never felt natural to me. It halfway wants to be a cover shooter, but never fully commits to that idea. And I say this, but I keep playing it. I've finished the game. I've gotten like 3 different endings, and there's no real reason for me to keep playing it, but I still do. I still go in, I still do gigs, I still do side hustles and ZPD hustles. I still regularly get into combat. So there has to be something fun about it. And there it is. It can be genuinely fun. There's a lot of different ways to create your own play style in the game. You can be, there's the requisite hacking, melee, gunplay, snipers, pistols, all that. Then aside from that, there's all the tech weapons. You can ping opponents and shoot them through walls. You never have to see an enemy if you plan everything correctly. You can hack people, quick hacks, short circuit them, make them commit suicide. There's smart weapons with self-aiming bullets. There's a lot of different ways to vary up the combat so it never feels too repetitive or samey. I have some thoughts about quick hacking and breach protocol, which is a mechanic in the game, which is basically Every couple minutes, before combat or in the middle of it, you can go into a little Candy Crush game and get some little bonuses, like disabling cameras or reducing enemies' resistances. And I don't think that's great for overall gameplay loop. I don't think it's a great idea to interrupt the primary gameplay loop so you can play Candy Crush. But like I said, I keep playing it, so it can't be that bad. Let's see, what else? The review portion of this game isn't going to be very long. We're almost done with it, trust me. Soundtrack, Cyberpunk sounds great. Every time I hop into a vehicle and turn on the radio, every song is a banger. I don't know how they made every song a banger in this game, but they truly all are. Every single radio station, smooth jazz, metallic, rock, pop, more smooth jazz, 'cause that's what I listen to. It's all great. Game, ambiance. It sounds beautiful. I don't play video games with the sound on. I usually just like to throw on. I'm perfectly happy to just throw on my own playlists and turn off all music in the game and just listen to voice lines. But I didn't do that for Cyberpunk, so that's gotta be a ringing review. Gameplay, graphics, Cyberpunk looks beautiful. Obviously, writing. There's so much to talk about on the writing for Cyberpunk. So let's talk about it. First of all, I see a lot of people with too much free time online arguing about whether or not 77 can be labeled as an RPG. And I'm happy to announce that I have a definitive answer to this question. Yes, and I have a little bit of a controversial opinion. Technically, every video game is an RPG. You are given a role, and you play it. So, yeah, it's an RPG, but obviously when we talk about RPGs, that's not what we're talking about. So what makes an RPG? Is it consequences having actions? No, it's not that. Because Telltale's The Walking Dead games, all the decisions you make in those games have meaningful consequences, but they're not RPGs, they're interactive dramas or whatever the fuck Telltale wants to market them as. Is an RPG based on having stats that go up? Probably not. Is it about specializing your character? Maybe. Well, if you ask me, I think an RPG, a role-playing game, is about being able to meaningfully specialize and control your character's story and actions. And I think with that definition, we have a very narrow scope of what fits into an RPG. Like, would you call Minecraft an RPG? You can customize your character, yeah, you control all their actions, but there is no world for your actions to have consequences in. You can't really call that an RPG. Is Fallout 4 an RPG? I guess you could call Fallout 4 an RPG. I guess it'd have to be. Every game with multiple endings would have to be called an RPG. Just going off this very bad definition, but yes, Cyberpunk is an RPG. Pretty much no matter how you look at it. Like, there's so much role-playing to be done in Cyberpunk 2077. V is, for the most part, their own character. You're only given so many dialogue options at any point in time in the game. But, there's a lot of opportunities that the game gives you to create a V that is unique to you. RPG games are like coloring books. The picture is drawn, but you get to choose the colors. And I think in the same way, you get to choose the color of V's soul in the game. Alright, now we're going to get into spoilers. And we're going to get into a little bit of a... This is pretty much just going to be me describing my emotional reaction to one of the endings in the game. So, spoilers for the Arasaka ending, the very plainly bad ending of 2077. So, quick recap. When you choose the Arasaka ending, You end up teaming up with Hanako Arasaka to dethrone her brother Yorinobu as the CEO of Arasaka Corp. And you find out that Saburo, the father of the two, who you watch die in the first major story mission, saved his consciousness as a digital ghost before his death. And you fight all your way through Arasaka Corp, you find Yorinobu, you end his coup of the corporation, and then you get shipped off to a satellite in orbit to recover from the damage that Keanu Reeves has done to your body. But before you get shipped off, you get to speak to Johnny Silverhand, played by Keanu Reeves in cyberspace. And he tells you that the line between V and Johnny at this point in the game is almost non-existent. And removing him will be like removing a part of yourself. And in the course of this ending, you spend the next hour watching an increasingly frantic V deteriorate. He can't solve basic puzzles. When you're given like a 4x4 Rubik's Cube and you can barely hold it, the nurse who takes care of you has to smash it into your hand almost. You can't run on a treadmill, and you're forced to play this game of word association a couple of times before the end of the game comes. You can ask the nurse taking care of you or the doctor, I don't know which one it is, you can ask them, the one taking your test, where Johnny is. You can tell her that you feel hollow. And those are options. You don't have to do any of those, but you can act out in this ending the feelings that Johnny told you you should feel. And the word association game also gives you prompts like the principal, and you can respond with answers like Johnny, or me, or Night City. And this doesn't change the ending in any way. It's just letting you create an emotional response in the main character. Before this point, when you try to justify siding with Arasaka to Misty, you have a couple options. You can tell her logically that it's your best shot at living, or if you're a rat bastard like me and you chose the corpo the corpo beginning, you can say this. All this started because I tried screwing with the corp, which used to sign my paychecks. If I can make things right, maybe everything can go back to normal. You can make your V run down and tired. They can be optimistic, or cynical, or selfish. They can be motivated by greed or fame or love, and you get to decide that. Not just internally, as your own little role-playing game, but the game lets you act it out in a very visual, auditory, and viscerally uncomfortable way that not many games let you do. In my first playthrough of Cyberpunk, I misclicked on the Arasaka ending, and they prompted me with the association game. The doctor said, the principal, and I accidentally responded, Arasaka. So if you want, your V can be motivated by a genuine devotion to this awful company. And I remember feeling tight in my chest hearing the way V's voice actor growled the name out. Arasaka, as if mad at even being questioned. Also, while in orbit, you're prompted to call V's friends, and no one is happy to hear from him. Pan Am, the nomad love interest, will yell at you for siding with the corp and tell you to get your ass back to Earth. And Judy, the love interest for female V's, doesn't even pick up. She's too busy packing her shit and getting out of NC. River, the police officer NPC, hangs up on you almost immediately. Too busy to talk with a sick V in orbit. You see glimpses into Earth news while in orbit, and you learn that Saburo has uploaded his consciousness into his son's body, killing his son and puppeteering his body around, and masquerading as if it was consensual. When you speak to Yorinobu before you get shipped off, before his sister gets to him, he mentions Johnny Silverhand, and he mentions Johnny blowing up Arasaka Tower, and how it didn't work. And he says sometimes you have to become the bomb instead of planting one. So before you stop his coup, Yorinobu, the big bad of the entire game, was planning on destroying Arasaka from the inside as the CEO. speaking of Silverhand, there's one point in this game where I really liked how they presented a certain viewpoint. There's a point when you're collecting old samurai tapes for Johnny in an optional side quest that you meet an old fan of Samurai, Johnny's old band. And Johnny says that this old fan's living in the past, and that this isn't what he hoped for old fans of Samurai, just collecting old bootlegs of music. And he laments the failure of his band to wake people up from the oppression of corporations. And then you mention him blowing up Arasaka Tower, planting a literal nuclear warhead in a tower and detonating it, and he blows that off as a failure. Because 50 years after Johnny blew that tower up, it's still there, standing just as tall. And as V, you can ask him straight out, if music didn't work, and destruction didn't work, how do you wake people up from their oppression? And Johnny just straight up tells you, I don't know. I really like that Cyberpunk isn't a very political game. I mean, obviously it's anti-capitalist, but it doesn't wear that. It just takes corporations being evil as a matter of course, as just a fact of life. Not really a revolutionary idea. And honestly, thank God, I don't know if I could have handled a video game trying to preach to me about the evils of capitalism. I think, as a person who has to go to work 5 days of the week, you can only be told about the evils of capitalism so many times before you begin to resent the message. I know capitalism is evil, I have to live in it. Please shut the fuck up. If you're lucky enough to have never worked a menial labor job, let me tell you, it is poisonous to the mind and body. There was a stretch in the holiday season where we would get so many customers every day. We would just be so backed up and people would be so angry at us, and it just created this really toxic environment for everyone to work in. And that shit is also poisonous to the mind, because you come in every day expecting to be angry. When you have so much work piled up that you're just scrambling to get everything done and know that you'll never get everything done. You'll have to do the same thing again tomorrow. It just becomes, you begin to resent everyone around you. I would find excuses to be angry at my coworkers, just to be able to feel angry, just because that was the only thing keeping me going. I would have to go outside every day and face this line of customers who haven't gotten their groceries, and door dashers who are relying on me to be able to feed their family at night. And I couldn't do that for them. And I would have to rile myself up in order to feel anger at them. I'd have to send someone back home because we didn't have the supplies for their order. And after they left, I'd have to rile myself up. I'd have to find some excuse to be angry at them. A car, the way they talked to me, or some reason to resent them. So I didn't have to feel too bad about disappointing them. There was one point where it was a bad day, obviously, and one of my coworkers did some gonk shit, and I got really mad at him. And when I asked him about it, I was like, "Hey, why'd you do that?" He gave me attitude, and I remember being so angry about it. And I just stopped and I went, "If you ever talk to me like that again, I'm gonna fucking attack you." And I think of myself as a pretty calm, reasonable person, but up until that point, I don't think I've ever genuinely threatened another person. That's just like the point I was at. I was so tired and angry. Because my classes, I would get home at 10 every day and do homework until 3 a.m., then get up at 7 and go to work. It's fucking awful. A few weeks after that, me and my coworker didn't get along very well after that, but a few weeks after, when Cyberpunk came out, He looked at me, and after not talking to me for weeks, he just went, "You game?" And I was like, "Yeah, I game." And he was like, "You play Cyberpunk yet?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I play Cyberpunk." And like we just got over it. We just started talking about Cyberpunk. So let it be said that Cyberpunk is a game that brings the working class together. Whatever. So yeah, I'm not angry at Cyberpunk for not being particularly political. Uh, it doesn't really matter to me. Cyberpunk is not a political game, or even like a game that has much to say about morality. The game never passes judgment on any of these actions, or even on any of Yorinobu or any of its antagonist actions. It never, cares about whether what you're doing is right or wrong. It doesn't ask about the innocent lives lost when Johnny blew up Arasaka Tower. It's not concerned with the morality or the politics of anything you're doing. There's one particular side mission where you get a text from this seeming like socialist free thinker. There's like all these like quotes from Karl Marx or whatever, and it takes you on this wild goose chase around the outskirts of Night City. And at the very end, it's revealed that the trail just leads to a fortune teller robot in the middle of Night City. And Johnny laughs at you. He says that's fucking hilarious. I'm like, he's right. That is fucking funny. That's hilarious. But there's one part of me that's like, that's so funny, and there's another part of me that's like, what a slap in the face to Cyberpunk as a genre. But also, fuck Cyberpunk as a genre. Fuck genre. I'm so tired of being told that capitalism's bad. I'm aware. Unless you've ever cried in a walk-in cooler or had to bum cigarettes off on your coworkers, then I don't give a shit on what your thoughts on labor are. This went a little off the rails. I had in my head, my thoughts sounded a lot more cohesive. Anyways, I don't think Cyberpunk is about politics or morality or survival. I think I know what Cyberpunk's about, actually. And I think it's about death. Because the game has a preoccupation with death. Johnny, the secondary protagonist, is, dead. And Jackie, your best friend, dies in the pursuit of glory. And you die before, being brought back to life by the relic. And Misty gives you the bullet which killed you as a necklace. As this representation of your death, always waiting just over the horizon, literally in your head. Always, on your neck, like a yoke. And V interacts with the bullet necklace differently in each ending. In the Arasaka ending, you can literally sign your soul away. Because the relic is going to kill you no matter what. And so you can agree to be stored as a digital engram, in Arasaka, in their soul prison, until they can find you a body that will work, that won't reject you immediately. But to do that, you become property. You have to sign your rights away as a human being and become property owned by Arasaka. When you choose that ending, you walk into the surgery room. V puts the necklace on, holds it close to their chest. This obsession with death, their one defining quality. And then they die, and they're turned into property, produced and owned by Arasaka. No longer even a person. They're out there, but, they're dead. And if you reject it, if you choose to live out the remaining months of your life on Earth As you walk into the shuttle, you rip the bullet necklace off you. You've allowed this fear of death to infect every part of your life. You've allowed it to corrupt your morals and allowed it to let this awful, awful, dead dictator take over his son's body and rule the world. But before it can, before you let it kill you, you take your status as a human being. V tears it off, and they hesitate like they're amputating an infected limb. And then V goes back to Night City, and nobody greets them. Alive and new, but hollow, just like Johnny said. And the third ending, my third ending, which is the best ending, when you side with Pan Am and all her biker friends. You race across the Nevada desert, and it's like this forest of black glass beneath you. And you hold out the bullet necklace out in front of you while coasting on this like tank that you steal. And you just drop it. While coasting along the sands of the Badlands, you just open up your hand and let the bullet necklace fly away. Like you were never even holding it. Like it was never even there to begin with. You finally give it up. Your obsession with death. So, yeah. I have a sign in my room that reads Memento Mori. So maybe I'm reading a little too deep into this necklace, but I don't think I am. So that's the wisdom for tonight. You're gonna die. I'm gonna die. You're gonna die. Might as well have fun while we're here. Some of the worst actions in history were created by men longing for immortality. So yeah. Good night. And sweet dreams. I love you.